everybody, this is Lee with Creative2xmom, and today I want to share with you all the resources that we are using to put together our insect unit. Now this was a unit that I was not excited about at all. We were going from trees into birds, which birds was a fantastic study for us, and then we were going to do insects on our way to plants, and I thought, do I really want to do insects? I really didn't want to, but it was one of the next things that was laid out in our Abeka science unit. And you guys know I use Abeka as kind of a spine to help me create these units. And I realized we had never done bugs, and so it was probably something we should do. The more I have gathered these resources, the more excited I really have become about this unit, and the more excited the kids have become too. We've already spent about a week and a half in just discovering insects, and we're learning a ton. So let me share with you what we are going to be including in this unit, some of the resources that we have, and what we think about them. So this first set of books that I want to share with you is something that I would include more for my younger student. My youngest son is 6 and he is in first grade, and so these are some of the things that I pulled with him in mind. This book is called Insects. It's in the Variety of Life series. And it's pretty basic, but it still gives quite a bit of information. The topics include insects everywhere, laying eggs, starting life, growing up. So as you can see, there's not a whole lot of words on each page, but there is some really good information talking about things like the different stages of the life cycle. What are they called? How do animals grow? What makes insects particularly interesting? And the thing that we're learning about is exoskeleton on this page. So even though it was pretty basic, that there's not a lot of information, it was good information. It was information that even I used in talking about with my older students. So spiracles, I didn't know what spiracles were. And so it's kind of a good transition from really young into the older kids. I had my older kids listen to this. We actually included this in our morning basket, and it jumped on into some of the things that I'm studying with them. So I feel like this is probably pretty good for a second or third grade, maybe first grade, depending upon your child. That was a good starting place. I love these look and find out science books. So we have one about ant cities, which of course, ants being insects. It's not so much information that it's overwhelming, but it's information that's less general, more specific to the ants, which I thought was good to kind of help my kids see the variety in the insect worlds, because insects can feel so monotonous sometimes, and I wanted them to see that each animal, each insect is created uniquely. So we've got that one. Are You a Spider? This is from a series called Backyard Books. There's an ant one, a bee one. Again, this is a pretty basic book, not a ton of information, but enough to get exposure to the different sorts of insects. This is the only one that my library had, although I would love to get my hands on the bee one, because we're going to do a short bee unit after insects. We're going to do a more specific week on just bees. And I'll have a separate video for all the bee resources, because I'm kind of holding off on those. We're going to do just 1 week focusing on bees in particular. But this is a good starting place, good for first grade, second grade. Starting Life, Ladybugs. We just read this one this morning, and I like how the pages kind of lay off. You see they aren't all the same size. It's like file almost. This is one of those that you can either use real basic, because the words in larger print are just your basic information, and then they also label some of the plants, some of the different animals that are in the background, and they give you more in-depth information in smaller print as you go along. Each page is like that, so there's more in-depth information. I like using this one for a variety of ages, because depending upon where we're at that day, if we don't have a lot of time, I'll just read the larger print, and then I'll allow my older kids to discover the scientific print, or if we have more time, I'll pick out certain ones from each page to read aloud. And so then I get the information for the little guy and the information for the big kids. And you cannot do an insect unit with little kids unless you include the Magic School Bus. And we've got the Magic School Bus gets ants in the pants. And I believe this is an episode as well. I haven't been able to check it on Netflix. Netflix still has Magic School Bus, and so I love to use that as a resource, but I think they've made this one into an episode. So if you don't have time for another book, maybe that's something that you can do in your free time, and then they're still learning. These were 2 books that I included in our morning basket, again, because they're just general information. They're little bits and pieces of information that we can read in the morning, have a few minutes to digest, and then move on. They're nothing real in depth, but I found that this, when we did our bird study, was what my kids retained the most, was just those little bits of information that we could read and digest on their own. So then they had more time to process it. In our bird study, we picked up the same book. It was Everything Bird on this one, that one. This one's Everything Insect, what kids really want to know about insects and spiders. And like I said, they're only about 1, maybe 2 pages long for each one. Great illustrations, lots of funny questions. And that's the thing, these are maybe not super serious, but they give your kids some really good information. And a lot of times the questions will be worded in sort of a funny way. I'm trying to remember one of them that we did right at the beginning that was just funny to me. Why we wouldn't have chocolate if bugs disappeared. And I thought, ooh, what kind of information are we going to get out of this? So it words it in just a fun and interesting way to get the kids engaged with the question. And then it goes on to explain lots of good nature pictures and captions for most of the pictures. It talks about how these ants aren't real, but if you go on a picnic, you might find your lunch covered with ants. Just a great little one for getting those little bits of information. Same thing with this one. I wonder why butterflies flutter, and other questions about creepy crawlies. We have read a similar one in our history, which was, I wonder why Romans wear togas. So this is kind of a whole series of books in and of themselves. And for these, even more so, this would probably be even for a younger audience, because each little answer is just a paragraph long. So you can just pick 2, 3 to read with your kids each morning, just to kind of get them in the process of thinking scientifically. Whose house has a trapdoor? I love these little books, just the quick discussion questions to get our brains working in the morning. This stack of books is just about insects in general. This one's called Everyday Insects, and had I not had, I wasn't sure I was going to be able to get this one from the library. Had I not been able to, this would have been what we would have included in our morning basket, because again, it's just 1 or 2 pages about each topic to get your brain going in the morning. Crickets and grasshoppers, fast flyers, dragonflies are not flies. So I'm hanging on to this one. We're not putting this one into our morning basket, but I'm hanging on to this one as a just like a resource for my kids as we go along. If they have questions about particular types of insects, we can refer to this one. Incredible Insect Q&A. This gets a little bit more in depth. You're looking at like a higher level research book here. The senses, can bugs live underwater? This was a great one to discuss with the kids. Are they skillful builders? Habitats and homes. So if you're looking at what particular, say you have a question about what particular is their habitat, you can flip to that section. Some great information here. This was just, I grabbed this at the Dollar Tree. It's nothing really special, but for $1, we are adding it to our school library. And it talks about each insect in particular. I'm playing with the idea of having the kids research an individual insect of their choice at the end of this unit, so I thought this would be a good resource for information. Bug Detective, Amazing Facts, Myths, and Quirks of Nature. Again, this is one of those that you can go as in-depth as you would like. So you've got the more general information, and then you've got all these little scientific captions as you go along. If you want to go more in depth, if you have time to go more in depth, or if you're just giving a quick overview of each insect. I love the illustrations in this one. They're so, they're kind of whimsical, but they're muted, so they're not too overwhelming. Just beautifully, beautifully illustrated in this book. We've got Insects, Facts, and Folklore. Again, displaying some of the myths of different types of insects. And this, I would say, is a higher level book Lots more in-depth information. And I'm sure I will be hanging on to this one when we go into our B unit. And then we've got bug off. This is vocabulary. If you think about different phrases that we share with our kids, bug off, like what does that mean? So it's just a fun, simple, easy read to talk, laugh about, share some information with your kids about just language and vocabulary. And the illustrations in this one are a lot of fun too. I've got two other quick resources for you here. Of course, the DK Eyewitness Insect. This is written at a much higher level, and we're going to be using it as a resource more so than anything. If we have questions, this is kind of more for me to flip through, digest, and then add to our study. Not so much for the kids to know all this information, but for me to have as a resource if they have questions, or just as I'm teaching them. If I know that we have butterflies coming up, then I would kind of go through this page and start to digest some of the information that I would then be able to share with them. Because this book can be a little bit overwhelming. Very, very well done, but can be overwhelming in how much is really there. And then we've got Bugs, which is a level 2 DK reader. I love these leveled books from DK because it allows my younger guy to really get into the information and to get information that he probably wouldn't get from a simpler book, but it's written at his level. I just have one more stack of books here, and the first one is Listening to Crickets. This is a story about Rachel Carson, and we talked about her a little bit when we did our Women in Science books, and I will link that video down below. She was a naturalist, very interested in nature, very interested in preserving nature. So we're going to be adding this to our morning basket after we're done with the everything bugs, because right now that's our couple minutes in the morning. Then we're going to read a chapter a day in this one to just get some biographical information. I love including real people in our study, and this is a real person that contributed to the study of insects and to the study of environment. So I like to bring it down to a personal level just to give the kids an idea that we're not just talking about some theoretical person here. We're talking about a real person that did work in this field. And these last two are what we're using for a lot of our investigations. We've got insectigations, which I love the way that they play on the word there. These are hands-on activities to explore the nature world, and I've just gone through in my planning and I've written down the page. You can use this as your text and as your investigations. We're just using the investigations in here as they apply to our study. But there is a lot of text and information that you can go through with your students in here. If you wanted to make this kind of more your spine of your study, you could do that. And then we got Janice Van Cleve's Insects and Spiders, and I've just gone through and picked out a few projects that we will be doing out of this one. So let me get this stuff put away and then share with you some of the videos that we are going to be including in this study as well. Now, as far as electronic resources go, I just picked up two from our local library. This first one is called Insect. It's by the DK Eyewitness, and it's about an hour long. This gave my kids some really good information. You guys saw that we had the DK Eyewitness book, so some of it overlapped with the book, but there's just something about having somebody else talk to your kids. I know sometimes they get tired of me being the one that's constantly giving them information, and so it's nice to have something like this on hand that you can use. Same thing with the second one. It's the Magic School Bus, Bugs. This is a collection of 3 different episodes, so we're going to hang on to this one for a while because there is In a Beehive, Ants in the Pants, and Butterfly and the Bog Beast. I had the first 2 titles on hold in book, but again, sometimes it's just fun to just have a video to be able to pop in. They can listen to somebody else's voice besides your own, and we all know the Magic Treehouse is fantastic. So if you can get a hold of this set from your library, or sorry, the Magic School Bus, they are also on Netflix, they're also on Hulu, and I believe you can get the episodes on Amazon. So that was it for electronic resources for this unit. Let me grab our, let's see, top 5. So if I were to pick my top 5 I can only pick out these resources for this unit, this is what they would be. I would of course get the Magic School Bus set because it includes 3 episodes, because it does hit a wide range of ages. I feel like it's entertaining enough for the little guy that he stays engaged, and yet it still gives some good meaty information. And even for the 7th grader, this is a little bit below his level, but those 7th graders love to have fun when they're learning too, and the more fun I can make it, the better. So these I know you can find on Netflix, you can find them on Hulu, and if you can get the set from the library, all the better. I love the Janice Van Cleve's Insects and Spiders book. The projects in this book it's really easy to find the material at home, and it takes you very easily step by step through the project, the hows and whys of what you're doing, and they're simple, but they pack a good punch. Same thing with I can't even say this word, insectigations. The projects were pretty easy to complete. I needed to plan ahead a little bit more with these. They sometimes included things that I needed to get outside the home, so it was good to have a plan with this book. But again, it explains really well how and why you're doing these investigations and what the outcome is, why it relates that way, and how it relates to the study of insects. Everything Bug, I can't say enough good things about this series. We used Everything Bird in our bird unit video. I will link that down below in case you're interested. We've used the Everything Bug, and now my 6-year-old is actually reading a book on his own called Everything Cats or Kittens, I don't believe. But really good information, stuff that you won't find elsewhere. We really enjoyed including this one in our morning basket to kind of launch our morning as well, just little snippets of information that enhanced our learning. And then I also really like this series called Let's Find Out Science. This one in particular was Ant Cities. I read this one with my 1st grader and my 5th grader, and there was a lot of good information in this one that we were not finding anywhere else. Written at an understandable level for my little guy, but also some good information for the older kids. You can, with a lot of the books, you can kind of adapt it and alter it as much information as the grade level of your kid. But we enjoyed that one because we learned a lot about ants from that book. It looks like a very simple book, but we learned a ton from this one. So those are my top 5 resources for this unit. I didn't think I was going to enjoy learning about insects at all, neither did my 5th grader, but I have to say this has probably been one of my favorite units of our entire year. We've really enjoyed planning this one and doing all the experiments and all the reading that we've done with this unit. I've been really happy with it. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you're studying in your homeschool. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.